Welcome. Here's a short practice you can do on those days where you're just too tired to get on your mat. All you're going to need are a bolster, and if you don't have a bolster, think about some couch cushions or some nice big fluffy pillows, a block if you have one, and a blanket. And we're going to set up our bolster once and then use that for our few poses. So start with the block. I like to start it on the middle height, and then I'm going to rest my bolster on top to create this nice inclined plane. Okay. We're going to start in a forward bend and on our knees and shins, so you might want to take your blanket and spread it nice and wide in front of your bolster. Make sure it's flat so there aren't too many wrinkles there. And then you're going to come and sit in front of your bolster, take your knees wide and your feet together. Take a breath in, lengthen your spine, and then as you exhale, walk yourself forward. Bring your chest to rest here. Now, you may find that this is not enough support. If that's the case, feel free to add another blanket or another pillow here. And let everything sink down. This is a supported child's pose. And I invite you to stay here for about 10 breaths. Notice what might be pulling as you're in the pose. It's not uncommon to feel it in the knees and the hips and the low back. So if that's the case for you, you can visualize sending your breath to those places that feel like they're holding, and invite the muscles to soften and release into the pose. After about 5 breaths, I encourage you to take your head and turn it the opposite direction. I'm not going to stay there because I want to make sure you can hear me, but keep your head to the opposite direction and take another 5 to 10 breaths. Allow your head and your weight to move into the bolster, towards the floor. You certainly can wrap your hands around the bolster or the pillow if there's space there, as if you're hugging this in. Let's take 2 more breaths wherever you are. And then we're going to gently come out of the pose. So bring your hands to the floor, another side of your bolster. Start to press into your hands, lift your chest up and away. Coming up, seated. I'm going to move over to one hip so that I can adjust my blanket now. And I'm going to use the blanket now underneath my head. So I'm going to fold it again into a nice small rectangle, bring it up here. And then I'm going to bring my hip to the bolster. And you have an option here. You could have the legs stacked, or you could take the top leg, for me it's my right leg, and have the sole of the left foot nestle that thigh. This, again, you have to play with it and see what feels best for you. Then you're going to turn towards the bolster. So there's a little bit of a twist here. Take a breath in, find some length in your spine, and then once more walk yourself forward, and you're going to turn your head to the side and rest. So this is a nice way to stretch into the hips and into the low back. And just as we did in our supported child's pose, here I invite you to soften your eyes, to let your weight settle in. This time notice what's happening in your shoulders and upper back. Can you invite some letting go there? Softening of the shoulders, let the arms be heavy. If you'd like to wrap your arms around the bolster and hug it towards you, you can, but then relax here. Let the prop support you. If anything feels unstable, feel free to come out of the pose, support it. And let's stay here for another 5 to 8 breaths. 2 more breaths. And we're going to transition through a reclining pose before we go to the other side. So when you're ready, start to walk your hands back underneath your shoulders, press into the floor, lift your chest up and away. Okay? And you're going to turn and bring your back towards the bolster. Okay? And you may even want to kind of adjust and bring it here. And then we're going to lay back here on the bolster. You might have to adjust where the blanket is underneath your head if you're using it. And you have a couple of options here. You can lay quietly on your back with legs forward. You might choose to bring your feet up into more of a constructed rest pose. If you do so, I would suggest walking your feet out and letting the knees fall together. Or the third option would bring the soles of your feet together and let your knees come out to the side. So try each of those. See which is most relaxing and restorative to you. We're going to stay in whatever that final pose is for at least 10 breaths. I'm going to straighten my legs so that's more restful for me. And notice as you rest in this pose how the breath can move more freely in the front of the body than in the last 2 poses we did. So take full deep breaths. Allow the back of your head and your spine to really sink back towards your supports. Your mind starts to wander off. Think about other tasks that you need to do in your day. And you notice that. Come back. You can focus on your breath and on the sensation of resting here. I invite you to take 5 more breaths. Begin to get ready to move from this pose to the next one. So you're going to bring your hands to the floor, tuck your chin into your chest, and then pressing into your hands, come up to seated. We're going to take this pose to the other side. So you're going to take your legs now the opposite direction. Remember, you can have the sole of, this time it's my right foot, touching the left thigh, or you can stack the knees. And then I'm going to turn and bring my hip towards the bolster, so my back is towards you. Hands on either side. Lengthen the spine, and then bring the chest forward as if you're bringing the chest to the center of the bolster, and then turn your head to the side. And you're going to rest here. You can make any adjustments in the props that you need. Notice where the pose might feel like you're holding. There might be tension or stiffness. Direct your breath there. Your shoulders, take another 5 breaths. And to come out of the pose again, walk your hands underneath your shoulders, press into the floor, lift your chest up, and come sit with your back to the bolster for a moment. Pause here. Legs can be extended or folded. And soften your gaze. Now we're going to change the orientation of our body. So swing your legs around towards the bolster, grab your blanket and put it at the end of your mat for support for your head. And you're going to bring your bottom right up close to the bolster so that you can bring your legs one at a time up onto that. And then lay back, adjust the pillow underneath your head, the blanket. Make sure there are no bumps in your clothing. And then come into a variation of legs up the wall here. The invitation here is to let everything go. Feel held by the floor. And if your mind is particularly busy, you can try an internal mantra to help you, remind you the purpose of your practice. It's the let go mantra. So as you take a breath in, think the word let. And as you exhale, the word go. Inhale, let. Exhale, go. Inhale, let. Exhale, go. Continue with this mantra. If you lose the mantra, start to fall asleep, or your mind wanders off thinking about something from the day that's unresolved. Once you notice that that's happened, let's guide yourself back, come back to that mantra. Inhale, let. Exhale, go. Think about allowing the pose to simply happen without you holding it. Your muscles aren't doing any work here. Take at least 5 more breaths. And you're, of course, welcome to let this video run out and stay here much longer if you have the time. But if you're ready, you can bend your knees, bring your feet to the bolster for a moment. Let your knees sway side to side. And then taking one arm above your head, roll towards that arm, rest on your side for a breath or so. And then rolling your chest towards the floor, roll up. Seated, you might sit on your blanket, or simply come to a cross-legged seat. Take a moment with hands over heart to notice how this practice feels in your body.